Dr. Feldman, tell me the story about how you earned the Solar Star, because I think it's a fascinating...
You know, I can do that, but let me tell you something.
You want me to do it?
No, well, maybe, but let me just say something that's that goes on today. Jim is responsible for open chest massage. It's been a known fact of life that CPR, as we know it, about when someone stops their cardiac motion and dies. So we're familiar with that technique of breathing that person and kind of pounding on their chest. But when someone has lost their blood volume, maybe like Lopez and some of the others, it doesn't work because the heart becomes very small, can't compress it, heart is empty. So Jim corresponded prior to Quezon with the innovator of cardiac massage and kind of explained to that doctor, who I believe was at the University of Miami.
Dr. Jude.
Yeah, what the problem was and is and continues to be. And said to that person, what we need to do is open the chest and spread the ribs and put our hand and open the sac that surrounds the heart. And literally, after we place these lines and put blood/fluid into the venous system and breathe for that person through the breathing tube, literally put the heart in our hand, which now has blood volume or fluid volume in it, and that's how resuscitation works. And that's where life ended and began.
Tell your story.
Well, you tell the story because I have difficulty.
Well, all right.
But
No.
so
So
mine was about
you're crediting Dr.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
And each little surgical set then had a couple, 3 instruments. It had a scalpel and a rib spreader so that one could insert one's hand. And
She's saying it's standard procedure now.
well, it
at the end
continues
of
to
life.
be. And,
Yeah.
and the evidence of that is when we had our 40th, you'll pardon the expression, because of our geriatric, we left our walkers home, by the way. We had our reunion, and the leading trauma surgeon in the Navy joined us in Charleston a couple years ago. And that continues to be the method by which today's trauma surgeons operate.
It's quite a legacy.
Let me tell you this other story. As you know, there's a chapter in the book about Eddie, who's remained all my life one of my heroes, other than being my dearest friend. But Eddie had this ability, aside from Quezon and all the rest of Vietnam, to find himself in the middle of horrific combat action. Every time I turned around in triage, he was jumping on a helicopter with his M16 to go help some recon patrol that got pinned down, okay? Yeah. On this one occasion, after some particularly heavy fighting and incoming, the Marines found one of their buddies with a mortar shell literally sticking out of his abdomen, obviously unexploded. And they brought him back to the area where Eddie was, and everyone kind of recognized that we had a very difficult situation here with a Marine who was alive, but who had a shell literally sticking out of his abdomen. The assumption, of course, is that since it hasn't exploded, that you're looking at a live shell. So Eddie got some of the Marine combat engineers sandbagged the area. Everybody else was sent away. Eddie approached the Marine and using, you might call rudimentary but very effective techniques, some finger dissection and so forth, was actually able to lift this round out of this kid's abdomen. The engineers then took the thing off and detonated it, okay?
So it was live.
Well, they detonated it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the end result is the Marine lived. And some of the witnesses, of course, gave notice to the Marine brass, and that resulted in the Silver Star. But the Silver Star is really only, I mean, it's part of it, and it's certainly well deserved. I mean, in some other areas, people get the Medal of Honor for that kind of stuff. But the real thing is, what's really unknown, and what I try to write a little bit on in the book is, in the Marine Corps, Eddie is one of their legendary figures. He remains today one of their heroes, justifiably so. And so few people actually even know about it. okay? It's one of the reasons why I made it a special chapter, because I've always felt that, as a total aside, you should also know that he's currently a nominee for the Medal of Honor, okay? Which is being adjudicated as we speak in some back hall in the Pentagon.
Right.
But, and we want to live long enough to see that.
Right.
But I think if you take the Caisson experience, the Silver Star experience, and the Medal of Honor experience, I mean, from my perspective, and hopefully from everybody, we're looking at a guy who's a genuine American hero, who's never quite gotten, you know, the recognition that he deserves. So I'm embarrassing you, but I want to get that on the record.
Well,
Sorry about that.
I had a lot of help. And, you know, I had the focus of the camera, so to speak, and the news interviews. And I was with the battalion, and I walked around with grunts and all that. Never got scratched, frankly. And it was sort of like the luck of the draw. But I always had help. The shell thing, the engineer, we're having dinner with him tonight
Oh, you
That's
are?
right. Bill Gates.
at the Georgetown Club. Lifelong friend, you know.
Of course.
So now I have the chance to embarrass Jim.
Let me ask
This-
you.
One point.
Yes.
He refers to Jim as the closest thing to a saint.